So in this video, we're going to start transitioning to a different topic, which is the topic of functions in Dart. All along, we've been looking at functions, at least one function, and we never really talked about it. But now is indeed the time. Let's define what a function is. Well, a function in Dart or in any programming language is an enclosed set of statements that we can then call those statements because they are enclosed. Now, a good example of a function is the main function. Okay, you can see we have a name, it's called main, and we have parameters that were passed, which we haven't talked about. But most importantly, we have the braces here, squiggly braces, which encloses this statement that we have that says print. Okay, and of course I created, you notice this is a new project that I created. Go and actually create a new project as well and name it whatever you want. I named it Intro to Functions. And again, you will have all of this code. All right, so that is what a function is. But the beauty here is that we can actually create our own functions, because that's the idea of having a framework in which we can build application, is the capability for us to create our custom functions as well. Okay, so we don't only depend on this one function, the main function, which is the main entry point. It's also important for me to inform you that every program, every Dart program has to have a main entry point. If you come from Java or any other object-oriented programming language, you will understand that this is the main idea, that you always have a main entry point or function, which is where the program executes first when you run. Right? So if you run this, we've seen 100 times now, we then have that print hello, and then we have this function calculate that is created inside of our bin, our lib, that is. And if you click on this one, actually see, it is indeed a function that we are talking about. Well, which we are going to be talking about. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, let's go ahead and create our own function. So in order for us to create our own function, it's very easy. The first thing we need to do is just go ahead and name it. Okay, I can go and say do something. And it's important to have the operator, because this is actually an operator, which is the parenthesis, which means inside now we can put parameters. But in this case, we're not going to put any parameters. So this itself means that we are constructing a function. Okay, and then we have the body. Okay, so inside here, we can then go ahead and say print hello functions. Now, here's the thing. Let's go ahead and run and see what's going to happen. Well, you can see here, we still only have this hello world 42, which is this statement here inside of main. Now, you may say, well, okay, so we created this function here, and we have a print statement, yet we're not seeing this hello function anywhere. Well, the reason why, because we said this is an enclosed statement, right? It's an enclosed set of statements. In this case, we'll have one statement, and it has a name. The reason why it has a name is so that we can call it, which means now if we want to see whatever it's been printed out inside of our do something function, we'll have to go inside of our main and say do. And you notice, because we are using this awesome IDE IntelliJ here, we have the option to go and select the do something, which is the method here. So say enter, of course, semicolon there. If you run, we should see hello 42, but most importantly, we should see hello functions. Ah, there you go. So you were able to create your first function. So we can go ahead and create another function if you wish to do so. Let's say my name, say print Paulo. Okay, save it and run. Of course, it's not going to show because we need to call it. Check this out. We can actually call functions inside of other functions. So if I go here and say my name, look what's going to happen. We'll run and it's going to say Paulo, because do something has been called, which then also calls say my name. If we wanted, we can actually call this inside here. It would be the same thing. And as any function, we can actually put more statements. We can even put an if statement here. I can say if, let's say, I could create a little var here. Name is equal to Paulo. I'll say if name that contains, I'm going to use a method, which we haven't talked much about these yet, but don't worry. So I'm going to check if the name variable contains, let's say P. Then I want to just say print hooray, like that. And I could put an else statement here, else print nay. Okay, very simple here, nothing big, but let's run this and see. It says hooray. Why? Because, well, there is indeed the letter P inside of name variable, which I had a Paulo there. Beauty here is that we have compartmentalized our code, right? Because now all we have to do is just call it. We don't have to write all of this code inside of our main, which may end up making our main bloated, and we don't want that, right? So now we're compartmentalizing our code because we're taking advantage of the functions. So as you can see, this is a very important concept for us to understand, and there's so many things we can do with functions, of course. Now you also notice here there's this function, other function that is created inside of our lib here, which returns result of multiplying 6 by 7. We will talk about all of this in a second here. But what I want to say is that when we go back to main, you notice that we're calling it because we notice this is an expression. That's why we have the $sign, and then we have the braces, and then of course we call our calculate method from our intro to function dart. So that is indeed the gist of functions. So in the next video, we will continue talking about functions, and we'll introduce how to return something out of our functions and the distinction between a function that returns something and a function that does not return something, such as what we just created here. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and play around with this concept again, ladies and gentlemen, and get excited because there's more stuff coming. Okay, I'll see you next.